Hello, I'm Jenna, and I'm going to be talking about how to transform teaching practice to position students as meaning makers. And this is going to be done within a French as a second language context. So different French as a second language teaching and learning opportunities require the educator to consider what the student knows about moving through a technology-rich environment, and that's digital literacies. It requires the educator to consider what the teacher knows about teaching within technology, and that's TPAC. It also requires how the text is constructed, and that's multiliteracies. And finally, the pedagogy of multiliteracies is a pedagogy is designed for the support of learning within a multiliterate world. To enable student meaning making, multiliteracies can effectively support students' needs within a technology-based society and focus on the power of the individuals as they engage in multimodal text. It is important for educators to support students' development as meaning makers within an online context because of the internet's presence in professional and personal lives. FSL teachers need to design learning experiences that get students to engage in personal, digital inquiry and online research. Students should explore information on a topic of their choice. French as a second language teachers should expect students to create a multimodal product that demonstrates their understanding and proficiency in a language. For example, Amber White used teaching strategies with her fifth grade class. Similar to Mrs. White, teachers must give parameters for projects, they must model project expectations, and prompt students to structure their investigations. This method is understood to be effective because it encourages students to pursue topics that are meaningful to them, and it makes them more emotionally engaged with their own learning. This focuses on lifelong learning and individually seeking selected topics to engage teaching and learning. The diagram shows how students engage in a cycle of inquiry, collaboration, participation, and reflection. This student as meaning maker method and cycle is effective because a recent study found that high school students who engage in these deeper learning opportunities demonstrated higher levels of interpersonal and intrapersonal skills and were much more likely to graduate on time. This academic success can transcend into positively impacting personal spheres of life and wellness. Now I will model how to engage students in online inquiry to place students as the meaning makers, and this will be done within a social studies context of grade 6 French as a second language. So first you should explore the curriculum with your students. Under strand A for heritage and identity, you can go through the specific expectations, like A1 is about application, and A3 is about understanding context so that the students have a perimeter of where their inquiry should be directed. This helps to guide the students and give them structure to their research so they know the content that they're going to be exploring. You can model how to think of inquiry questions. So for example, A3.1 is asking to identify the main reasons of why different people come to Canada. Instead of looking at what reasons did various people have, it's better to look at it's helpful to model how students can think of inquiry questions by using how and why to start their question. So students can take from these sample questions from the curriculum, or they can make up their own, but this is a good way to model them. So why did so many people come from Ireland to Quebec and Ontario in the middle of the 19th century? Why do people come from many other countries come to Canada? It's instead of thinking of the who, what, where, or when, these kind of questions offer more closed ends as opposed to the why and how, which are more open-ended questions. So for example, the expectation A3.4, it gives us sample questions. So what impact did the residential school experience on First Nations communities and families? Model how a better open-ended question would be, how has the residential school experience impacted First Nations families and communities? This helps students develop more open-ended questioning, and they can tweak them from here. They can share their co-created as a class or with partners questions through a platform that of Twitter. I embedded Twitter within the website here that I've made, and also within my classroom website. So here are an example of tweets that my students have created for their questions, starting with why and how, So just to format this, these are about child labor, but the same thing can be done for immigration to Canada. Going back to the curriculum, it's great to have students develop their ownership of their learning to see where this is all coming from and the structure of it. So go through the expectations and show that you're meeting the expectations of formulating questions, of gathering through inquiry, you're gathering and organizing information from different sources. You're analyzing and constructing print from maps as part of your investigation. You're interpreting and analyzing evidence from different forms of information and tools. Finally, they're also evaluating evidence and drawing conclusions on perspective. So they need to be mindful of who is the author in creating this form of online information that I'm going to be reading. To communicate the results of their inquiries, they're supposed to use different appropriate vocabulary. Within a French as a second language context, it helps to explore the vocabulary and give them the French versions of it as well. So when they're doing Google searches, it helps them, they have the base for it. You can create and brainstorm vocabulary they might use by using a website I found called Bubble. It's a mind mapping website, so it shows them how they might group their thinking and where this might guide their questioning, might guide their research as well. It's helpful for students to help structure their inquiry and their online inquiry by using Google Docs as a graphic organizer. So I created a graphic organizer and I can share it. I did share it through Hapara, which is helpful to share information to multiple students, or you can just share it through Google Docs, not the same thing. The students can include their question or research question for the how or the why, and they don't need to answer all of the points here, but it helps them to see, oh, I'm on track, or am I straying off track, or helps me to think, oh, am I meeting my curriculum expectations that we have looked through? Or if they want to add other things, it's a very flexible document as well. They can add to it, add different items they might want to explore. I found this about this. Oh, I don't need to answer 8 and 9. That doesn't pertain to my question. It's a very flexible document. And it helps them to add their references as well. It doesn't need to be APA format. It can just be including the website where they found it to help give reference and give credit, to help them to start to think of giving credit to the resources and the author where they got the information that this is not their idea. They have borrowed it from someone else. It's a good idea to explicitly model how to Google for students to show our thinking and to help them to get to start doing that. So in Google, I'm going to model how l'immigration irlandais au Canada, so Irish immigration to Canada. I can look at the first one and explicitly share my thinking with the students by thinking, oh, Wikipedia. Well, I mean, I could try and click the first one, but I might continue and keep reading until I find a more reputable source. Oh, Encyclopedia Canadienne. Oh, Encyclopedia, I might click that. That might be a little more reputable of a resource. So I can click through and remind them, this is a great idea to teach them reading strategies, that it's a good idea to skim through the ideas while they're reading and looking for visuals. They don't need to read all of the content. Oh, here's a visual since it's a second language course. And, oh, okay, so Darcy McGee, okay, il a aidé les personnes. Oh, ils sont assinants. Okay, interesting. Oh, look, it helps me to look at items that are bolded or different colored, so take my attention to there. So it gives them different reading strategies, and while you're modeling to them, they don't need to understand every single thing. They can just explore, oh, here I might look at migration, that looks like an English word, migration. So l'immigration irlandais. Okay, so I might just take a few things from here. Canada, that looks like an English word. Oh, Terre-Neuve, Newfoundland. So it helps them to keep in mind they don't need to understand everything, but they can look for visuals and immigration, immigrants, Irish immigrants. Okay, I can maybe read this and look at the Great Famine. It's embolded. So maybe they came because there was a famine, and I can keep exploring. It's a good idea to share with students and teach them about the different formats for presenting their understanding and their knowledge. So they can share it through Prezi, they could share it through Powtoon, they can make a 3D diagram, they could use green screen as a movie interview. So here a student, you were doing child labor, an online inquiry. So she used green screen and we uploaded to CSAT to keep track of it. Finally, I just wanted to show you the New London groups thinking about different modes of meaning and multimodal text to show the importance of it within student sharing of their ideas. And these are my references that I have used. So there is still place for teacher teacher to share information, but it can also be students as meaning makers.